Welcome back to another episode of Gigi's Talk. Today's guest is a powerful example of transformation. She started serving as an officer with the External Affairs Ministry and to become a TEDx speaker and now to be the founder of Female Forward Consultancy. So Nirupama helps emotionally conscious women, professionals, and others heal emotional wounds, release their self doubt, and lead with confidence and ease. Her work blends emotional healing and inner child transformation, helping women succeed not from a place of pressure, but from alignment and inner happiness. So let's welcome Nirupama back. We already had an episode with her, but this is the second time we are having her with us. So before we begin, I would love to ask you if you enjoy the value driven conversations like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and support for more meaningful content. Welcome, Nirupama, back to the show.
Thank you so much, Geeta. I'm so happy and overwhelmed, with the way you have introduced me. Just a little typo. I was working with the Ministry of Home Affairs, not External Affairs. And now that I'm here to, really support you and your show. And let's bring the maximum value for our audience out here.
So going forward, Nirupama, you started your journey as a cop. That is an external thing, right? And now
Absolutely.
you came into emotional healing with extraordinary experiences. So, was this moment you realized your real work is not outward but inward?
Thank you for asking me this question. And this is a work, this is a question rather a lot of people go through. When I was working with the government of India, even the trainings that we underwent, it was full of physical and mental endurance. And hardly any time, people spoke about emotions because, when we are in very structured environments, it's said that either emotions are to be suppressed or emotions are to be hidden. If you bring them up, people will consider you weak. So that's exactly how I started. And I came from a family wherein people said, oh, you need to be strong. You don't need to show that you are emotional. Otherwise people would think that you're feeble. So back in those days, I did not realize that what role did emotions have to play. But as I was moving from my journey from being a cop to an entrepreneur, initially, I got into business coaching, and business coaching was all about skills, systems, and strategies. And that's exactly what I used to tell people. But then I realized that the actual chaos was in the emotional state. It was the emotionality of people that was not allowing them to take action, whether it was procrastination or perfectionism. Most of the people, they do not do what they are supposed to do, not because they're lazy, not because they are not disciplined, not because they feel that this is something I don't want to do, but they do it because there is some emotional reason, that is stuck, that doesn't allow them to take that kind of leap and move ahead with things. So I realized that most of the people require help there. And if we see our society, most of the people are rewarded for the external factors, whether it is higher paycheck, bigger positions. I mean, till the time I was with the government, people used to say, oh wow, you're doing really well. But I know how messed up I was, being at that senior position and still feeling that I don't have enough, I don't know enough. And now that I look back, while I have this small startup which I really value, honor, and love, I am much at a happier place. I mean, why am I sharing this? Because the more conviction that you have in your work, the better you're able to, translate that lesson to your clients, to the people out there who are ready to build something. So I realized that emotions became a very integral part of how people go out in the society, how they really lead, how clear they are in what they're articulating, what kind of decisions that they're doing, how authentically they express themselves. You know, anywhere you find a blockage there, you'd be able to see a mismatch. She's saying something, but she means or she feels something else. So that's the reason, I believe I moved into this work uh, of working with emotions, helping people with their emotional well-being, and making people a little bit more emotionally healthy.
Wow. It's more of the conditionality that we are brought in with, right? We are all born
Yeah,
with immense potential, and then
correct.
conditioning starts, and then we are into boxes. Women who appear outwardly to be very successful but feel
Hmm.
emotionally depleted inside. Why
Yeah.
do you think this disconnect is so very common today?
Well, there are various reasons. Like you rightly mentioned, that somewhere or the other, it's a part of our conditioning. And being a part of our conditioning, we are asked to be a part of the rat race. We are saying, oh, you need to hustle hard, you need to work hard, you need to grab bigger paychecks. I mean, no offense to that. Of course, you need to, since you're here, you need to have a great income and a great lifestyle. But what I'm just trying to point at is how you're doing that. I mean, you can have a greater paycheck even in a very relaxed way, instead of putting so much of performance pressure, instead of bringing a lot of fatigue, stress, anxiety. And a lot of people say, oh, nowadays I don't get sleep. Sleep, you can make a lot of money without sleeplessness. So here, why a lot of women are going in this rat race or running, hustling, and we may call it in different forms, is because as per our conditioning, we are rewarded for our performance. If and only if we achieve something, we are told that you are worthy of getting that kind of love. If and only if you are able to generate X amount of money, you know can you be accepted in the family. And in order to get that acceptance, in order to get that kind of love, you know most of the people are operating from a place of that success needs to be earned or love needs to be earned. That's a very conditional space to be in. And when you are operating from a place of success needs to be earned or love needs to be earned, you are all the time overachieving. You're all the time going in that proving mode, because you feel that only when I am performing, hustling, can I get love from my family members, can I get acceptance from my family members. And people are doing so much of work for achieving something that can also be done with little amount of work, and they are tired. And then they say that, oh, I'm totally exhausted, I don't have time for my own self, and I'm getting those health ailments. So because our society has made those rewards around performance, that we find most of the women are running, most of the women are hustling. I mean, I just remembered of an example here. There was a client of mine who said that, Nirupama, if I do not do a job, I will not have a say at my home. you know and women are so bound these days that they find their freedom by going out for a job. you know that's the place we are in. So the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what kind of society are we trying to create? So this is the plain and simple reason, that I'm finding that why are women externally, let's say, very rewarded or ambitious, and internally very exhausted. That way.
You wonderfully put it, Nirupama, that in today's world, especially for young girls, it has become like a mandatory kind of thing to be working
Mm-hmm.
so that they can
Correct.
have a say in their families, a say in the world where they want to put an opinion. Otherwise,
Correct.
they are going to be labeled as opinionated, difficult to handle.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
out because of that, they want to prove themselves externally, but that is
Correct.
also leading to the internal emotional exhaustion that they are coming up with. And that is
Absolutely.
causing a whole lot of health issues in women. You
Correct.
mentioned women constantly strive, doing, proving. But underneath that, there is a constant push. Why do you think
Correct.
that push is there?
I think I would want to go back to that same reason, that ultimately that push or that striving, that proving is coming from the place that we need to be always in the survival instinct. If I am not doing enough, if I'm not uh, putting that extra effort, I will not be accepted. And when you are surviving, you're always managing things. You are just rushing from one thing to the other. Your nervous system is saying that, okay, what is the next thing that I need to do? I mean, I want to tell you that there are women, or even for that matter, the woman who's sitting in front of you. I was at a place when I could not sit idle, even for a minute. And my mind would always be thinking, okay, what next to do? While you're in office, you're thinking, okay, what do I have to do at home? While you're even eating, you're thinking, okay, fine, after this, what am I going to do? I mean, that planning is so on and so forth that you cannot relax. And one of the reasons here is that, uh, there were days earlier wherein women was just looking at the feminine aspect of things. When I say the feminine aspect, maybe taking care of the home, taking care of children, taking care of elderly people. But over a period of time, uh, the mothers who raised us, because they were homemakers, they felt that ultimately, till the time my daughter does not go out and earn, she would not be accepted. And of course, because they belong to a generation where staying at home was not akin to getting that kind of respect, so they raised those kind of daughters whom they trained in a way that, till the time you don't go out and earn, you will not have any self-worth. And that's where we had that self-worth issue, that most of the women feel that only when I go out and work, I would be say appreciated in some way. And when such a thing happens, so women are handling two different things. They are that their original way of being is the feminine, and now they are turning themselves into a masculine way. And when you are in a very masculine way, you are just doing, and you are just, moving from one project to another, one thing to another, and you are putting so much of pressure onto yourself. And that's where the constant proving, constant doing. The women who come to me, I tell them that, why don't you operate from a feminine way of being? And people, I want to tell you that feminine doesn't mean that you would not do work. Feminine means that you are more in sync or in alignment with, who you are. That self connection is there. You feel that ultimately, I know when am I feeling very active, when am I feeling creative, when is it that I'm feeling very much in my body, which I can actually give out in the work. And that brings in a lot of creativity, because as women, we are creating all the time. Not only we are creating babies, but we are also creating different projects, different business ideas. But when you tune yourself to your, let's say, the peak hours, when you are actually fresh, when you can actually give the best ideas out there, things come out in the form of a lot of flow. There is a lot of ease in how you're doing things, rather than you forcing yourself to do things in a certain way. And that's absolutely opposite to the constant striving that you're doing, that is actually tightening your muscles and your body, and you do not realize it while you're doing it. But as Geeta said, it comes in the form of psychomatic not psychometric, but psychosomatic diseases. Like, suppose if you have constant stress that's going on, or constant anxiety that's going on, it may lead to asthma, or it may lead to bronchitis that you're dealing with. If you are blocking your expression, you will have throat related issues. If you are having a lot of constant anger that's going on, then you will start developing stomach related issues. If you're suppressing a lot of things, then you will start having heart attacks. And there was a time wherein only men were having heart attacks. Now we are in that day and age even where women are having heart attacks. So one thing is leading to another. And that is the reason I want to ask you people, that why aren't you, really going ahead with your feminine way of being? Of course, in your corporate culture, at certain places, you may want to play the masculine way, but the whole idea is to balance both the energies, not dominate any one of them. That's, how I would want to put it, Geeta.
Most probably, Nirupama, I think it all stems from where we are coming from. Like our generation, yours and
Yeah.
mine, comes from a generation where my mother was working. So
Yeah.
my aunts were working. So I come
Sure.
from a family where the women were already working. So they
Correct.
knew their self-worth and they were not ready to put down their worth for anything. And then,
Correct.
but I see in my friends' families that most of the mothers were not working. They didn't have
Mm-hmm.
a say in their families. They didn't have an opinion. And if they
Hmm.
could give an opinion or they had a word to say, it was suppressed as you should not be speaking since you are not working. You do not contribute
Mm-hmm.
financially. But this
Correct.
all stems out from where we come. It all comes from the upbringing, our
Correct.
family, our ancestry. So it is all somatically also related. Many of you will think, how can it be somatically related? But yes, it is somatically related. Everything gets imbibed in the cells. And the way you carry forward, the way you grow, it all comes up. And there will be
Correct.
a point in life, there will definitely come a point in life when, if you are suppressing for too long, the bursting will happen. And Nirup,
Correct.
what she wants to say is, before that time comes for the burst to happen, mend your ways. And mending can
Correct.
only happen when you refine your own internal system. It comes from self awareness and from self discovery. Know that your worth is not related to your work or from the place you come from. It is all here. The way you think is the way you are, and you will be, and your present and the future will be. So, what Nirupuma's work is all related to changing that perception of what you had been carrying forward. Am I right, Nirupama?
Yes, I would want to add a little bit. Like, since you mentioned the somatic part, most of the times, we play from mindset. And the initial part of my work was a lot of mindset driven. But the kind of work that I do now, it is more of nervous system driven. We all have our default mechanisms. Like, suppose I have fear, this is how my body is going to, react. Maybe I'm going to shrink, or maybe I'm just going to run away from that situation, you know. So, the moment you are able to calm your nervous system, things become like a default mechanism. And then, you don't need to think that this is how I should be doing things. So, if I have to talk about my work, it is more about helping people, really recalibrate their nervous systems so that they come from the survival mechanism to a place wherein they have self connection and they can decide from there.
Nirupama, would you also like to add that we as females undergo cycles? And there
Mm-hmm.
is definitely a change in our body, our moods, our psychological things that is
Mm-hmm.
associated with it. How do you
Yeah.
help females to perform their best with those
Mm-hmm.
things around?
That's a beautiful question, that you've asked me, Geeta. And since our energy is not linear all the time, and like I had heard long ago from somebody that a job is very good for a man, because a man's body is working in a linear fashion all throughout. But as women, we work according to the lunar cycles, the way the times when we are menstruating, we our mind, our body, how our hormones, they really work in a very different way. So the whole idea is to respect our cycles. Like, there was a time, I never used to rest when I was menstruating. I would go to gym, I would go for running, and I would feel, oh, I'm so strong, who can stop me? And I used to actually go against my cycles, till I realized that, I was doing more harm to my body than doing good to it. Now, there is a phase in a woman's life when she's ovulating. And when she's ovulating, she's super strong. I mean, that's actually the time when you should be going to the gym, lifting those heavy weights. And if I talk about business, it is about, really creating amazing projects, or starting some new projects, brainstorming on new ideas. because that's the time wherein your mind is very clear, your decision making is very good, and you need to be cognizant of which phase you are in. Then there is a follicular phase, which is right after the menstrual period. That's the period between your ovulation and the menstrual period. That's the time your body is recovering. So when your body is recovering, it's very important for you to just do those work that require a bit of transition, that from a slow phase you're moving to a stronger phase. So you are actually you I would say building that kind of momentum to move ahead. And then after your ovulation to your menstruation, there is a luteal phase that is there. And in that luteal phase, it's a time for you to complete the existing projects, the projects that you've already started. And those projects, I would not suggest anyone to start with any new projects, because your body is undergoing a transition. And you also need to respect what kind of movement that you do in this time, because most of us, since we are aging day by day, it's very important for us to respect our bodies also. So let's say if you are menstruating, that's a time wherein you can just go for light walks or maybe do some light yoga. But if the bleeding is too much, or if you find that there's a lot of pain, I would say please don't do anything. Rest is the best gift that you can do to yourself. When you are in your follicular phase, then you can just go for some light walks. You can maybe start with some cycling, jogging, which not that intense, not a lot of cardio. When you are in your ovulation, like I said, that's the best time to lift weights. And it's very a good time for your strength training. And when you're in your luteal phase, it's again the time to really scale down and look at those things that can help you in the form of gentle movements. I also want to mention here, since we are talking about cycles, that I was of that thought that we should be doing heavy weight lifting. But recently I realized, after studying a lot of things, that the best thing that women can do is gentle workouts. Because when you do gentle workouts, it doesn't disrupt your hormones, and you are doing things in alignment with your body, rather than forcing yourself to move in a certain direction. You are not a man, and you shouldn't be moving like a man. You need to respect your body and respect the way that body has been created. So that's something I wanted to add, Geeta.
Wonderful. So, Nirupama, when you say that feminine leadership, what does that actually mean? And in boardrooms, homes, businesses, or in real life? And there is a constant push for women there to be doing, to be performing, and to be proving themselves. What underneath current is there always running in a woman's mind then?
Okay, so there are two questions, which I would answer part by part. Firstly, you asked me what is feminine leadership, because we were talking about feminine bodies, respecting our cycles and everything. First, before I explain feminine leadership or feminine leadership, let's first talk about what is masculine leadership. Masculine leadership is, just running, hustling, striving hard, moving from one project to another, creating big structures, strategies, and, just getting tired and, burning the midnight oil, all those concepts that have been, that have been told to us. Now, on the contrary, let's move to the feminine leadership. So when I talk about feminine leadership, it is actually working from a place of steadiness. Now, what does steadiness mean? Steadiness means that, you are very calm. Whatever decisions you are making when you're very relaxed. And all those decisions are coming not from a place of proving to somebody, not from a place of any fear-based motivation, not from a place of, completing any emotional wound, but it is coming from a place of self-connection. When you're connected with your real self and why am I doing what am I doing? So that's what feminine leadership is all about. It is also having an element of intuition, along with logic. While logic has a great role to play in how we move ahead, but we all have a bodily guidance or a bodily intelligence. Like suppose you have to take a decision and your body is feeling very light or expansive. That's your body telling you that, hey, you're in alignment with what you are doing. And on the contrary, you find yourself shrinking, or you're finding there's a lot of tightness out there, and your body is resisting. No, 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 I don't want to go there. So please do not, I would say, overlook these or override these instinctive signs that your body is giving you, because that is your feminine talking to you and telling you essentially in what direction should you be going. Now, coming to your second part of the question, which you said, and what is that undercurrent, that leads to that constant striving or that constant proving all throughout. So I would say that we all carry a lot of emotional wounds. Now, these emotional wounds could be in the form of I am not good enough. Because when you feel that I am not good enough, you feel that only when I strive, only when I prove certain things, that's when I'll be good enough. And I'm not good enough comes in different forms. Like one way could be I don't know enough. So when I say I don't know enough, it means that I need to gather more knowledge. I need to, do more certifications, do more courses. Only when I gather that kind of knowledge is when, my business would be successful. Then another aspect is I don't have enough. This is coming from a scarcity mindset, which would always say that only when I have these kind of checklist, I have a big bungalow, I have this kind of a car, or I have, traveled to these many foreign destinations. That's when, I have enough. And it is more to do with your abundance mindset. I always tell my clients, if you cannot value what you have, life will not give you more, because life would feel that ultimately whatever is being given to the person doesn't know how to carry it. How can I give more to it? So this is the entire wound of I am not good enough, which comes out in different forms. Then another aspect could be your self-worth issue. When we talk about your self-worth issue, uh, a lot of people are getting into that zone of high achievement because they are seeking validation from any of their caregivers. They feel that only when I earn x amount of money will I be getting love from my caregivers. That first concept that we spoke about, love needs to be earned, success needs to be earned. So that's where we are connecting it to the self-worth issue. Then there are a lot of people who are people pleasers. They feel that till the time I do not make people happy, and how do they make people happy? By constant striving, by taking on more that they can actually hold on their plate. So these are some of the many wounds, that women carry, and that doesn't allow them to rest. They're constantly juggling, constantly struggling, constantly in that ongoing mode.
So, Nirupama, you also speak about women feeling and having the longing to be felt, held, seen, and emotionally belonged. How does
Yeah.
a woman begin creating that space and belonging with herself?
Thank you for asking me this question. For the longest time, women don't know that they do not belong. Because they feel, what is there to belong?
Hmm.
You know, but the real need is felt. When they start having that emptiness, when they start feeling that I have everything around me, yet I don't feel fulfilled,
Hmm.
or there are so many people around me, yet I feel so lonely.
Hmm.
And I have probably the best life. I have a great job, or I'm doing a great business, I'm doing what I want, but something feels like a misfit. These are the times when you actually get to know that you don't belong, and there is a need for emotional belonging.
Right.
So since you've asked me that how do we get that emotional belonging, the first thing is that first a woman needs to acknowledge her emotional needs. The more the woman connects to her own self, the more she gets to know that this is essentially what I need.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, when we are that good girl, good bahu, or let's say a good employee, a good business owner, when we are playing all those things, we sideline our needs, or we say, oh, these needs are too much. I don't deserve to really fulfill all these things. So that's the reason I say that the first step is really acknowledging that your needs matter. And once you have named it, it's very important for you to give that time to land in your system. We are all the time getting into that zone that, okay, let me just fix it. We are in that project mode. Okay, this is a troubleshooting thing. I need to do this thing. Let me find a solution. Let me do this thing. Let me do that thing. And, our mind is going tra tra ra, and, we are not understanding. So please allow it to land in your system. Please
Right.
allow yourself to really soften and take that time to maybe feel that pain that I am devoid of this particular thing. I'm devoid of love. I'm devoid of care. I'm devoid of nurturing. I'm devoid of nourishment that I require. And the moment, you allow yourself to rest, you allow yourself to soften yourself, you allow yourself to take that necessary time, is the first time you open the gateway to emotionally belong. Now, these are a few steps that you can really do on your own. But sometimes the wound is so deep, that uh, you do not know how to really work on that. And that is the time you require an expert. Like the way you are helping people with their emotional journey, or I'm helping people with being emotionally health. That's a time for people to really ask for help, because the worst thing with strong people is that they feel that we are hyper independent.
Mm.
I know everything, I don't need anyone. No, 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 I'm not going to ask for help, because if I ask for help, I'll be portrayed as very small.
Right. That is so evident and very powerful.
Yes. And asking for help doesn't make you weak. Asking for help means that you are open to receive, and that is the receiving issue also.
Absolutely.
And you are allowing things to happen to your life by somebody else's experience. You don't need to make all those mistakes on your own or undergo that pain on your own. So if you feel that you deserve that kind of help, that you deserve that kind of love, then reach out to somebody who's already taken that journey. Maybe that person can provide you more comfort. That person can provide you more belonging, because ultimately you need to feel safe in your nervous system. When you feel safe in your nervous system, everything turns out like magic. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's exactly what I want to say.
I was attending a session by Dr. Gabor Mate, and what he said
Mm-hmm.
was, we as humans, there is a potency in us that we do not want to acknowledge ourselves. We don't
Yeah.
want to say that I am facing it, or I need it, or I want to be like this. We want to be perceived as the best, and the perseverance is, or the perception is of somebody else, that we want to
Yes.
inculcate and want to emulate and want to be the best in it, like being the
Correct.
best bahu, the best boss, the best employee. It is the perception of somebody else, it is not our
Correct.
perception at all. and we
Yes.
and we give our lives proving to it, working on
Correct.
it. So this is where we need to draw that boundary, as you said correctly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do
Yes.
you also believe, Nirupama, there are many women out there who are outperforming themselves emotionally, overdoing,
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
because so that they can keep everything happy, contained, and so that they feel belonged and they feel loved?
Mm-hmm.
Is that an
Uh,
issue ever?
yeah, we absolutely spoke about striving. And that's outperforming is not only in the direction of in terms of outperforming in work. It is also how you do anything is how you do everything. You outperform in relationships. You outperform at home. You would be exhausted. You would be taking 10 different decisions, and you would not be giving that decision to somebody else, because you might just feel that, oh, that person may not be able to do as good as I'm doing.
Hmm.
And
Right.
again, that is coming from a place of either doing it in a perfect way, that I need to do it in a certain way, and only when I do it in a certain way is it, really good enough. Or is it is also coming from a place, wherein you're not able to trust others. And when you're not able to trust others, when you don't trust your own self. I mean,
True.
because others just mirror us a lot of times. So this outperforming, you need to understand that what is your reason. Is it
Hmm.
a perfectionist issue? Is it a trust issue? Is it an issue that you feel that you cannot give things to others, because at the end of the day you are not sure about their capabilities, and that again comes back to the trust issue.
It all
A
starts
lot
from
of
us.
it all starts from us. So you need to understand that what is that deep rooted thing that is not allowing you to have ease. Because ease, my dear, is a very beautiful thing.
Hmm.
You don't have to hold everything onto your hands. You
Absolutely.
can actually, ask for help. I mean, even asking for help is an aspect of, not outperforming.
Hmm.
And then you're giving chance to that person who is really good at what they are doing. It could be a house help, it could be taking help in business. Like, you don't need to do video editing yourself. You may
Right.
be great at shooting videos, really giving value content, but don't get into that work that is not meant for you and you give it to somebody else.
Hmm.
So
Outsourcing.
outsourcing outsourcing delegation, they are all coming from that aspect when you are not wanting to give it to somebody else, and you want to outperform and you feel that only I can do it very well. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's, you really have to
That's
yeah,
self-enabling.
holding tight. Yeah,
Holding tight.
holding tight. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nirupama, the world keeps offering women strategies and hacks about productivity, and you say healing comes first. What changes when a woman becomes emotionally grounded and prefers and stands by healing first?
Thank you for this question, because not the world, I also used to give skill system strategies to people, before actually getting into this work. So uh, first, let's talk about why healing, and what changes, when we heal. Uh, we had spoken about conditioning. We all are the products of our conditioning, and the relationship with our parents that we have is the kind of problems, we face in our life. So a lot of times when we find that wherever there is a challenge with any of our caregivers, be it a father, mother, or any other caregiver in your family, who has been playing that primary role, we find that the remnants of that relationship, is visible out in the world. Like, if I have to give an example, the kind of relationship you have with your father is the kind of relationship, you have with your boss out there. And if there is, you had a very dominating father, your father is always dominating you, so chances are that you will find most bosses, who would be dominating you. Now, why this happens? Because the lesson that you had to learn from your father, you could not complete that, and it is appearing in your life over and over again in some other form. Until the time you do not, fill that gap, what's going to happen is life keeps showing you that kind of a thing, till the time you don't learn that lesson, till the time your subconscious doesn't get that lesson. Now, the relationship with your mother, it always impacts your self-worth. The way you think about your own self, is all dependent on your relationship with your mother. Now, this is, which this is the part I normally talk about in inner child healing, which of course we talk in detail. But what I'm just wanting to tell you is that most of the system skill strategies, like a gentleman came to me and said that, you give me some strategies, should I actually do some meditation? Should I, just go for a run whenever I'm getting stressed up? And to that, I had to say that you may do everything on the external, but when the inner wiring is faulty, you know, you no matter what you do on the external is not going to change that inner wiring. So when we work on the healing, we go to the root of the problem, from where it started, from where it emanated, and you are actually plugging the gap there. Now, this is, what we speak in terms of our conditioning. Now, let's talk about generational traumas. There are a lot of times that we find that maybe we have not done a particular thing, our parents have not done a certain thing, yet we have the emotional memory from any of our grandparents or their parents or grandparents that is still there in our system. Now, because of that, we may have certain fears. We may have, let's say, scarcity mindset. We may have certain beliefs, like we do not want to go out on social media. And people says, oh, I'm lazy, or I am not able to follow through. But the real problem is not that you're not able to follow through, or you're not able to, create content, or you don't have the right system. The real problem is that generational trauma that you're carrying, that wants to be hidden, that doesn't want to, go out and has that fear of visibility. So why, I personally moved to healing was because I realized that if you just work things on the surface level, they're going to come back after a period of time. But if you really have to work on that thing, which helps you move in a sustainable way, you need to work on the place from where it started. And the moment you work there, that's no longer a problem to deal with. And you can work on many other things. So what women get is, probably they get calm clarity from healing. They're more calm. And when you take decisions from a place of calmness, when you take decisions from a place of clarity, you are in alignment with that. You are no longer taxing yourself, making yourself tired, in moving in a certain direction. You have that inner knowing that this is the place I want to go. This is the work I want to do. And that is coming more from that, understanding of yourself, that this is who I am as a person. These are my values. These are the principles I uphold. I am a person who is of this kind of personality. Like, I was often told as a child, oh, she's very sensitive, she cries. And I realized that the sensitivity was my strength. Because somewhere or the other, those things that others were not able to understand, I could understand in people. So now the kind of work that I'm doing is more in alignment with the kind of person or the kind of, let's say, characteristics, that I have. And when you move in that direction, it's a natural flow. You don't need to force yourself in any direction. That's why healing, Geeta.
Be it in our body, be it in our psyche, or whichever way comes from our childhood. And knowingly or unknowingly, we carry it forward, and that hampers our growth in our adult age. The way we
Correct.
present, the way we dress, the way we walk, we talk, everything depends on certain things. So, what do you feel? How much is the influence of inner child healing on a person's leadership and performance?
I think it impacts throughout. Thank you for asking this aspect of leadership and performance. Now let's first understand what is inner child healing. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. Now there were parts of you as a child, that felt unsafe, that felt unworthy, that felt unseen, that felt unheard. Now, the moment you carry these things for a longer time, they come in the form of emotional wounds. I'll give you an example. If you feel that you are unheard of, you would always feel that at the end of the day, nobody listens to you in board meetings. Nobody listens to you when major decisions are being taken. If you have that aspect that, hey, I'm unseen, in family gatherings, you are completely invisible. You would say that nobody knows that I'm there. Nobody's paying attention to me. because you are carrying that wound of being unseen. Similarly, when you feel unworthy, you're all the time doing that extra thing, that extra hard work, that extra performance pressure. Like we were speaking about performance, you would be performing all the more in order to prove that, yes, I'm worthy. Only when I am able to do this much amount of work, I'm worthy. So when we talk about inner child healing, it is about tending to those parts of ours, as a child, which felt unsafe by some sort of, say, safety, by some sort of validation, by giving them that care, by giving them that nurturing, that I hear you, I see you, that you did not get what you were longing for the longest time. And that's where reparenting comes up.
Absolutely.
You reparent yourself, you fill in the gaps, you make yourself feel whole. And when you feel whole, you feel more safe from within. And when you are safe from within, you're able to take better decisions. You're not having that bouncy energy. And when you don't have that bouncy energy, you are, very clear for your leadership. You know exactly what to articulate. You know what kind of a work to, you want to get done out of your team. And ultimately, it's not only helping you in leadership in your boardroom, it is also helping you become a better leader at home. The way you're dealing with your kids, the way, you're getting work done out of your staff at home. Because personal and professional are not two different things. They are, two sides of the same coin. Because ultimately, it's the same person who is going in the personal settings and who's going in the professional settings. So this is how, inner child healing really helps you become a person who is in more alignment, who works from a more calmer place, who's not going out there to prove herself or himself, or the person who really, operates from the inner knowing. And that helps you everywhere, whether it is in your business, because when you are taking those confident steps, you will be able to generate better clients. You'll be able to have better revenue. You'll be able to have better visibility. If you talk about in terms of corporate leaders, I would say that you would be able to, sharply and clearly articulate your points. And when you clearly articulate your points, you essentially know how to get things work done out of people. And this way, it helps you in your appraisals. It helps you in your salary negotiation. It helps you get better projects. And everywhere, you are unstoppable. You operate from an authentic self. And that's where expression becomes unblocked. So I think that important is inner child healing.
Absolutely, Nirupama. So wonderfully you have put it that reparenting is a concept that most of us are not aware of, and
Correct.
reparenting can be done, and it's very effective. Even I use it in my programs. So reparenting is an important part, an integral part of healing when it comes to healing your wounds that you're carrying.
Correct.
So many women listening here might be feeling exhausted without knowing the reason why. They cannot explain why. So, what is one gentle practice that Nirupama you would like to share with her so that they can start it by this week?
Beautiful. See, the first aspect, if you are feeling exhaustive or exhausting, I'm sorry, I'll just say it again. If you are feeling exhausting, or you have that fatigue, you have that tiredness, you are feeling that I'm down and out, I don't know what to do, then that is your body telling you that there's something wrong. Either you are handling much more than what is your capacity, or there is something that is coming in the form of intuition, that what you are doing is not in alignment. So the first thing that I do myself, and I would want to tell the women out there, just grab a sheet of paper or grab a journal and write down what are the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, that I am feeling at that point. Now, this may not go at the root cause of things, but at least it will bring to you all those things that are still in the subconscious or the unconscious mind. You can just write down first all the thoughts, that maybe the thoughts, oh, I'm tired, I feel that I'm totally burdened, or maybe thoughts like, I feel that nobody supports me. You can have any number of thoughts. And the best part about journaling is, or this practice that I would want you to tell you, you don't need to write impressive answers. You need to write raw answers. Because a lot of times people are like, ye acha nahi lagega, so let me just not write it. I want you to just keep on writing anything and everything, as dirty, as messy it is. Just keep writing it. Then come to your emotions. What is it that you're feeling emotionally? Am I feeling alone? Am I feeling that people will leave me? Am I feeling that nobody supports me? Am I feeling that nobody loves me? Because the first thing that you need to do is to acknowledge it yourself before you can do anything about it. Then go to your feelings. What is it that you're feeling? And the moment you write down layer after layer, you will feel that so much which was in your head, so much that was in your body, has at least got down on that sheet of paper or in your journal. Because, my dear friends, that awareness is the first step towards transformation. If you can name those things, then you can really think about, okay, what is it that I can do about it now? And then again, I would say that if it is very daunting for you to handle it on your own, because it's not easy. Most of the times we want to put it under the carpet and not see it, because it breaks a part of us. So get a facilitator, get a person who can hold you at that time in processing that emotion. And once you're able to write down those things, I can definitely tell you from my experience, a great part of you will feel at peace and you'll have a lot of ease in your life. So that's one practice, Geeta, I would want to share it with the audience.
And this is a practice that anyone can do anywhere. You need not have a very fancy thing to, just a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil will do. As she said, hasn't got to be perfect. Don't get the perfect and you come out. No, it has to be very crude, very raw as it is.
Correct.
Coming to the end of this beautiful conversation. So what is the truth about emotional healing and feminine power that most women learn too late but deserve to know earlier, at least now?
Thank you for asking, this truth. I mean, had I known this in my 20s or in my teens, I feel I would have been a very different person. The first thing that I would want to say is that a lot of people think that being feminine is weak, because they feel that, it's the masculinity that's going to give you a lot of recognition, a lot of growth, a lot of achievement in your life. Because feminine is considered to be very soft. And the way, we have grown up, whether it is our education system, whether it is the way we were chasing our jobs, it was all about hardening ourselves. We felt that only when we harden ourselves and we fit ourselves into a box can we really achieve. But I want to tell you, my dear friends, that softness has a power of its own. And when you actually allow yourself to be soft, you allow those parts of you to come out, which go unnoticed. And that will bring a lot of creativity for you. That would bring a lot of flow for you. That would bring a lot of relaxation, effortlessness, ease for you. And anything that is created from this place of ease, peace, comfort, relaxation, you would be seeing it's going to come out as a masterpiece, rather than something that you create when you're too stressed up, when you feel that, oh my God, I have deadlines to meet, or when you feel that, oh, I'm bound to do that, my boss is after me. I mean, you can actually feel the difference in the energy. The first one really, relaxes your muscles, and it helps you move in a direction that gets your full self in creating it. You're able to untap your entire potential in creating that. So I think that's the first truth, that feminine is not weak. Feminine is something that lets you trust your body intelligence, that lets you trust your intuition. And intuition, a lot of people, the problem is not with intuition. The problem is that most of the people doubt their intuition. They start getting into that mode. मेरा intuition ये बोल रहा है, मैं इसको follow करूं, लेकिन logic तो ये बोल रहा है. This is what the logic says. And that's where there is a complete clash. There's a complete conflict that happens between these two things. And I'm not wanting you to sideline the logic, but I want you to also take intuition into consideration. Because maybe in that moment you may not understand, but when you go after a few days or after a few months, you would realize that what my intuition was wanting to tell you was actually the right direction for me. A lot of times, we discourage or we override that first knowing. जो पहला thought आया ना दिमाग में, like नहीं, but my research says this thing, my analytics says this thing. But I want to tell you, women, trust your intuition. It sometimes guides you in such powerful ways that, no AI, no machine learning, no Excel sheets can guide you. And when you really go back and see, you would find out that this decision was quite rewarding. So do not consider that feminine is weak. Do not consider that intuition is something random, because that's bodily intelligence. And finally, I would say that a lot of people feel that if I rest, that's something I need to earn. And I want to tell to people out there, and especially to the women, please allow yourself to rest enough. Because we have always learned this thing, okay, only when I complete this project do I deserve that rest. But when you are in a rested state, and then you operate from, then you actually create something, whatever you create will have a lot of relaxation in that. And that same energy would be transferred to your clients. That same energy would be transferred, to your stakeholders, to your team. So you don't just allow them to rest. Like there's a beautiful thing that's coming to me. If you have rested enough, only then you can allow others to rest. अगर आप ही बहुत ज्यादा थकावट में हो, तो वही थकावट आप बाकियों को pass on करोगे, and then they are going to be in that stressful, anxious state. So these are the three truths I wish somebody had told me earlier, and but everything comes at its own destined time.
Right. So thank you so much for this wonderful conversation that we had. And coming to it, I realized talking to you, it is always the journey from within that is more powerful than the outward journey. So whenever your body feels tightened, stiff, or takes a step back, remember there is something to consider. It is not just a gut feeling, it is your intuition and your body saying no to it. Recognize that feeling and respect it. The more you respect that feeling of your body or of your somatic responses, the more happier you would be. And the kind of learnings and the kind of experiences that you shared, Nirupama, it was really insightful. And I believe it might help a lot of women out there. And from your journey, the biggest takeaway that I can see is you left your outward journey for your inner journey. So your transformation was always inward. And as you said, feminine is not weak. Think of Durga. She is not always the person who carries the weapon, but at times when she needs to, she carries it with grace. Be the Durga in your life too. Because when life challenges you, you need to take that step. Don't take your step back. Be the Durga.
Great. Wow.
So it's a wonderful conversation that we had today, winding it up with a powerful thing to say that viewers and audience, if you like this kind of powerful conversations and value adding content, please like, share, and subscribe to us so that we know that you are listening. Thank you. Thank you, Nirupama, for being on the show.
Yes, I want to add something. Please put your valuable comments, so that we can get to know that what has been your learning. So as you are actually hearing us out, keep putting in the comment section, what has been your learning, so that we can learn from you as well. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's a two-way communication that happens. Thank you. See you again. Bye from Gigi's Talk. Thank you.
Bye-bye.